Welcome to the Sonic Titan, where we make unnecessary deep dives into songs, albums and music, ranking and judging them like a frontman and a drummer undergoing band therapy. In support of their new album, 72 Seasons, Metallica is about to embark on the M72 World Tour, which will feature a brand new dynamic, with something they call a no-repeat weekend, where Metallica will play 2 nights each city with 2 completely different set lists that feature no repeating songs between each other. In other words, if you go to both nights, you won't see them perform a single song twice. Now, as we got nothing better to do, we decided to make our version of what those set lists could be. For this, we decided to take in consideration a few things. First of all, we had to consider the number of songs and average duration of Metallica's concerts on their last tour, in 2022, to get an idea of how many tracks we can add to each set list. After a quick research, we found out Metallica played an average of 16 songs in a 1 hour and 40-minute set list in their last tour. So this will be the basis we will be using to build our set lists. Each of them will feature an average of 1 hour and 40 minutes of music divided into 15 or 16 tracks, depending on their duration. Next, we decided to set a few ground rules for the set lists. It is highly unlikely Metallica will structure one night to feature their biggest hits and one to feature deeper cuts, as they have not revealed the set lists prior to ticket sales. For this reason, we will have to be careful to divide their concert staples evenly between both set lists, as this is more likely. Other aspect to take into consideration is that, even though Metallica will most certainly give preference to their most successful albums like Ride the Lightning, Master of Puppets and the Black Album, they will probably try to feature songs from every moment of their career, especially taking into consideration the concept of the album and tour, which is likely to give emphasis to their new release. And finally, we will try to be realistic, maintaining our setlist predictions and expectations within a certain limit of reality. No, we don't think it would be likely for Metallica to alternate between the frayed ends of Sanity and To Live Is To Die, even though we wish they did. So let's get it started, shall we? We will add songs to both set lists simultaneously, explaining and contrasting our decisions. After we're done adding songs, we will rearrange the set lists in the final order, but until then, it will be in the album order, just to keep track. To start things out, Kill 'Em All. We will take 2 of the songs Metallica plays most frequently from this album. Seek and Destroy and Whiplash, 2 audience favorites at Metallica concerts. Seek and Destroy ends up having a slight advantage, as it is the single most played song out of Kill 'Em All, so we will take this into consideration. Then, we move on to Ride the Lightning and Master of Puppets. First of all, let's get this out of the way and put Call of Cthulhu in one set list, while Orion is on the other. As Orion is a more popular song within the Metallica community, we will put it in set list 2, featuring Whiplash. Now, if we add Fade to Black to one set, we need to add Welcome Home Sanitarium to the other, to even things out. I think the instrumentals could be a nice way to set the mood for these songs, so I will match them with the respective instrumentals from their album. However, there is a track that unbalances the entire dynamic, which is Master of Puppets, one of Metallica's most popular songs, which can only be matched by one other song in their whole catalogue, Enter Sandman. For this reason, we will put Master of Puppets in setlist 1 and Enter Sandman in setlist 2. For Whom the Bell Tolls is a must-have in the same level of battery, and so I will put 1 in each set. And finally, we still have Creeping Death, which, in my opinion, we will have to match with a song from another album, that being Blackened. As we have Blackened in one set list, we will put the Ballad 1 in another. And to be sure the Black Album is present in the set list without Enter Sandman, we must add the second most popular song off that album, Nothing Else Matters, to setlist 1, which will contrast with 1. Then we move on to 90s Metallica, with Load and Reload. We know these albums are not as popular as the ones before, so each setlist will feature a single track from each of these records. From Load, we took King Nothing and Bleeding Me, and we decided to add Bleeding Me to the setlist that featured 1, and King Nothing to the setlist that featured Nothing Else Matters, to try to balance them in terms of energy. As for Reload, we chose Fuel and The Memory Remains, adding The Memory Remains to setlist 1 and Fuel to setlist 2. Finally, Saint Anger. We thought about skipping it, but Metallica has been playing tracks from this era too in recent years. So we decided to add All Within My Hands, a song they have been performing quite frequently, to Setlist 1, and the title track to Setlist 2. From Death Magnetic, we chose Cyanide and The Day That Never Comes, adding Cyanide to Setlist 1 and The Day That Never Comes to Setlist 2. Finally, the last of the past albums, Hardwired to Self-Destruct. From this one, we chose Atlas Rise and Moth into Flame, putting Atlas in Setlist 1 and Moth into Setlist 2. Now, for the new record, we know they will try to feature the tracks more heavily. For this reason, we divided the two most popular tracks, 72 Seasons and Inamorata, for each setlist, putting 72 Seasons into Setlist 2 and Inamorata into Setlist 1. Then, we know that out of the preview singles, Luxturna and Screaming Suicide were the better received songs, so we will put Screaming Suicide in Setlist 2, which already has a good opener from the new album, and Luxturna into Setlist 1, to serve that purpose. Finally, two of the fan favorites we've seen online were Too Far Gone and Room of Mirrors, so we will divide those songs within the sitlists too. Now we have two sitlists, out of order, with about 1 hour and 40 minutes each, featuring songs from every main Metallica studio release. Next, we put them into order. We know Metallica will try to put the songs off the new album in the spotlight, so we will begin each set with a new song. Setlist 1 will begin with Luxturna and Setlist 2 will begin with 72 Seasons. Then, they need to keep the energy high, so the sitlists will feature 3 high-energy songs, followed by a mid-energy popular track. That's when we put the instrumentals followed by their respective ballads. Next, it's time for another new track in the middle of the setlist. Setlist 1 will feature Too Far Gone and Setlist 2 will feature Screaming Suicide. Now is a good time for a track from Hardwired to pop up, and then why not a 90s track? Now, since Setlist 1 had King Nothing, it would be a good spot for All Within My Hands. As for Setlist 2, we need the opposite. After Fuel, we will add Bleeding Me. All Within My Hands can fall into Nothing Else Matters and Bleeding Me can take us to Saint Anger. Then, if in Setlist 1 we are in a calm state, we go to Battery, and after the chaos of Saint Anger in Setlist 2, we will head into 1 for a more melodic moment. Finally, the main setlist closes with Inamorata on Setlist 1 and Room of Mirrors in Setlist 2, before coming back for Seek and Destroy in Setlist 1 and Enter Sandman in Setlist 2. Two completely unique setlists with no repetitions, featuring songs from all of the Metallica studio releases, in a balanced and cohesive way. But which one do you prefer? Which night would you rather go to? What would you change in the sets? Let us know in the comments. We'd love to know. And don't forget to like, subscribe and turn on the notifications for our new videos. This is Jason and thank you for tuning into the Sonic Titan.